This episode of the Helping Healing Humor podcast is brought to you by Lads to Leaders. Are you looking for something to help your kids learn to lead, both now and in the future? What if you could find something that offered year-round opportunities along with a yearly convention to help hone skills and learn to deal with competition in an encouraging and loving atmosphere? In 1968, Dr. Zorn began a program with 8 boys in hopes that they would learn to lead in their churches and communities. Now, 55 years later, there are 20,000 boys and girls each year that participate in activities that are true to the mission of Dr. Zorn's program. Lads to Leaders has trained over 250,000 young people and brings whole congregations together with competitive and non-competitive events, activities for people ages 3 to 103, and Bartimaeus events for special needs participants of all ages. The convention takes place in 10 cities of the U.S., as well as the countries of India, the Philippines, and Romania. The leaders of the future are trained in the present. So go to ladstoleaders.com to check out all the things this program has to offer. That's leaders.com.
Welcome in to Helping Healing Humor podcast with Ben and Travis, brought to you by the Slawburger Chase 5K, 10K for Landon Carr. We are coming to you from West Virginia. We're here with the Skits with the Truth that Ben and I are blessed to be a part of.
What does Derek bring to the show here? Oh, he brings brute strength. That's what he brings, I guess. So.
Power, force, intimidation.
We typecast him quite often.
No. The typecasting is the juxtaposition of this massive guy that is humble.
Yeah.
When he stands in that cross shop,
oh man, yeah,
and gives everything he owns to God,
that's
and is
awesome.
willing to walk away, and nobody else can pull that off.
Yeah.
It'd break your heart when this, he could take that cross and walk out, and nobody could stop him.
Yeah.
But the juxtaposition, and I've never seen him lose his composure. And we've been chased by trains. We walked into some places carrying pistols that weren't stage props.
I've not seen him.
Never seen him. Other than,
30-something years, I've not seen
the worst I've heard him say is, "I don't think you understand." When we were stuck on a stump in a swamp about to sink a boat, and that's as excited as he got, all right? And so I think what he brings to the table is everybody expects this brute strength and destructive force, and it's just a tsunami of humility. And that's not acting, that's Derek.
Yeah.
No,
That's who he is.
But then he can flip that switch. You can believe that
he's
he
mad
move
at
you
you.
if he
Oh,
wants.
now he can act like he's a ticked off Roman soldier who's about to crush somebody's head.
That was the difficult part for me this year. Was I had to act.
You had a couple.
in
You had
two
a
different
couple.
skits.
You had that one, and then the one. Get out of line. I'm tired of
Get out of line. Get out of line.
I believed you. I was a firm believer in that Derek. I believed because I was the guy he's coming after, but I believed it.
Well, I said that in class this morning. I said, Derek, if these young girls were sitting there, and I said, the big guy, he's going to be in our skits, and I said, he is one of the most humble, loving guys, and I said, but I can guarantee you, if somebody was trying to get in that door and hurt one of you girls that's in here, these middle school girls, I said he'd be the first one that nobody want to lay their hands on him because he would take care of you. He's gonna make sure that you're protected. And so, that's a cool.
One of the most fearsome images I have is Derek on a paramedic call, and he's got a combative patient. He starts putting on those rubber gloves, and he calmly looks at a guy and goes, "This is to protect you as much as it is to protect me." And what's unwritten is, I'm about to put my hands on you. And if I squeeze juices out of you, it ain't going to get on me. And that's about as scary as you can get with a guy being calm.
Put hands on him, you will not soon forget it.
That was what we were
talking about this morning, Leviathan.
And so Travis brings this effervescent energy and unpredictability to our skits. And all you got to do is wind Travis up and spin him and let him go.
Yep.
You're not sure where he's going to go.
But it's always golden. So whether he's the streak or the selfie ninja or the Batman who does stand-up comedy.
Y'all just can't let me get to do all the things I've always wanted to do. Be a ninja.
It's just like Travis goes, "Oh, I'd love to do that. Let me do that." And you just, all you have to do is point him in the right direction. And then Travis is like an arrow. Once you shoot it, it's going to go. You don't know where it's going, but it's going down range.
It's going down there.
Travis, you have a broad range. Like you can do the funny stuff and the goofy stuff, but you do the serious stuff well too.
Yep.
You undersell yourself, man.
It's fun. We have a blast.
You're so believable, though. You're so genuine, I think, when you come across.
Well, and Barabbas was that way,
Oh,
and then
man.
the one that year when he does the the cross and the cross falls
How
in
much
that chair,
longer?
yeah.
Yeah.
and very awesome on those two.
Not
so.
intentional. Not
Yeah,
intentional.
the cross wasn't, but your acting was fantastic.
And if you ever find yourself on stage with Michael or Ben, you really never know what nationality you're
Yeah.
going to land with.
So what
Yeah.
Ben brings is he's got this plethora.
That's a
El
good word.
guapo. You have a
I do have a
plethora.
plethora.
So he's got this plethora of accents and voices. Everything from an Irish or Scottish guy to Gru, and everybody in the middle. And so and Ben will practice for a month without the accent, and then on stage in live time he'll decide.
I think I'll drop this in there.
I think I'll do this today, and then all of a sudden you just got to roll with it, whether you're prepared for it or not. And then Ben is very creative.
Well, Michael cracked me up because for years I thought he was just too cool, right? I saw him at Freed. I saw him around. I knew he was even in SWAT, and it never clicked with me that was the same dude. But then, I mean, he's hilarious. Like just
Absolutely
straight
one of the
up
funniest people on the planet.
genius.
And Michael is so
I mean,
quick.
He's
Yeah,
quick.
he's
Yeah.
so quick.
So we're walking in it was the mall in Chattanooga. What is that mall?
Hamilton Place.
Hamilton Place. And so he'd been doing this role where he's Armando, the shopkeeper, which is sort of a kissing cousin to Rico. And so he's, I am Armando, welcome, and it's unbelievable. So I decide I'm going to catch him off guard. I'm going this way, he's coming, and it's a mall full of people, CYC crowd. It's covered up, and I yell, Armando! And he yells, Raul! Runs, kisses me on both cheeks, and hugs me, and then stands there like he's talking to me. And I was out. I was done. I was unprepared for his response. And so, Michael's
So quick. You
Quick
think you might get him,
and
and
dry
then he'll
wit.
turn it on you.
Yeah, I mean, he'll murder you that
And
way.
this whole thing is, you never know who you're going to be on stage with from year to year and how that rolls. And so you learn to, there's some chemistry there that gets built up. But then there's a few of you just never know, right? And you just got to be ready. Lonnie tonight dropped some lyrics on me in one of the skits, and everybody's like, he didn't do that in practice.
Yeah.
He didn't bat an eye. Well, I've been at this long enough to know you just got to be ready.
Roll
Just got
with
to
it.
whatever's
Roll
going to
with it.
happen.
Roll
And
with
so
it, yeah.
I'm always amazed at how. I mean, you look at Saturday Night Live; they do this all the time. I mean, not anybody really watches Saturday Night Live, but they break down. I mean, they
Oh yeah.
have to turn, and I've not seen that yet. We're always
it's
able to
coming.
it's coming,
It's coming.
and
Well, you've done it to us in
we're
practice
able
or
to
different
cover
things,
it
yeah.
up. But the ability to kind of roll with the punches is an undervalued asset that I think somebody has.
So going with that, somebody asked, has there ever been a complete mess up on stage that you all knew, that we all knew, but nobody else caught it?
When the cross fell,
Well,
it
that's
was
true.
not planned.
Oh yeah.
No.
But it made that skit like,
And I got asked, still get asked,
How
if,
did you
if
guys
that was
do
on
that?
purpose.
Yes,
No.
and it
absolutely.
wasn't
Yeah.
planned. It just happened to do the thing. And I don't know if you can say the Holy Spirit went, "Doop," thumped it off there or whatever.
Right.
But, and that's tongue in cheek. Save your emails, Larry.Davenport at CYC.com. But
It's not a real email.
it's one of those, yeah. So I don't know in the modern times that we've ever had an absolute run off the rails.
No, I mean, we've had stuff. I know when we get done, I've thought, well, I missed that line. I was supposed. I know on the one, the Vaxify this year, every time I go to do those three things, I'd forget one of them. It seemed like every time I do it, and there's just some different things like that we'll miss. But it's kind of like a concert or whatever else. You didn't notice that you missed the one, or that the crowd didn't notice that you missed the one note, but you notice it. You remember it. Like, oh man, I was supposed to say that or this.
So years ago in the robber skit, when we were using teenage girls, Jackie and Jennifer Beverly, or Jackie and Michelle Allen, were walking home, and I was going to rob them. We were in Kernersville, North Carolina, and they were used to coming on like stage left, and I would catch them stage right. I got behind the fern on the podium, let them go past me. And I jumped out and yelled freeze, and I got a legit straight up scream from my wife. And she looks at the camera or the lights, and she looks at me and she goes, I'm just so afraid. I don't know what to say. And that was her cue that I had knocked her out of her OODA loop, and she was done. So we had to start working. But we saved it. We pulled it out. But she went, "I'm so scared. I don't know what to say." And we just had to roll with it, and we had to create it there at the moment.
But the crowd
never knew it.
not even know.
Now there have been plenty of times where we did not have a skit nailed down until the very last practice.
That's true.
And of course, the
Most of
adolescent, USS
Starship
The
Adolescent.
Star Trek with the USS Adolescent.
And it went off.
And we're talking about
Without a
like,
hitch, but-
we're practicing that hours before we do it in front
We're
of
in the building.
14,000
Still not
people.
getting it
At CYC and trying to hammer through some
I
of
remember
that.
spouses looking at us like, "Y'all are gonna do this? This is I don't know, you know."
But the fun
somehow
part of
pulled
it
it out.
is that the worst thing that can happen is we tell the audience, "Hey, we blew that. We're going to try it again," and that would be funnier. Andy Ashworth and I were two old men on a park bench and supposed to be talking about a guy coming across. We're at Owens Crossroads Church of Christ, their original building, and we were using an 80-foot travel spot. So we didn't have two lights. We just had lights up, lights down. And this thing would roll a cat. And we're in this little bitty church building, and you pop that handle, and, you're there. Well, every time we opened up and turned that switch on, it blew the breakers in their building.
Oh,
So Andy goes, "Well, it's somebody fool around, throw the switch. Well, well, the fourth time it went out, we're so tickled in the skit, we almost can't handle ourselves. And so we're laughing, and I guess the audience knew it was a mess up, but we finally, after 4 or 5 times, work our way through this skit with both of us crying and laughing. And in another robber skit, it's Doug Weeks and Tony Allen. And I jump out and freeze. And Doug Weeks is built like a granddaddy spider. And he jumps into Tony's arms, and Tony catches him, but not well, and they fall forward. And they just both land on the stage. And I've got the pistol up and covering my mouth to keep them laughing while they put themselves, but it looks like a complete, this is great acting, a stage fall, and physical humor. But it was an absolute, how about you drop Doug right there on the stage and fell on top of him?
I love the year at Dallas that you were talking about Michael's up there with a chainsaw. And I think Ben and I, or whoever it was, went and put a tarp over the front row. And the eyes of those people like, are we okay? Are we in the safe zone? And nothing goes anywhere. Nothing happens to them.
And somebody whispered, "You did sign the waiver, right?" And you keep moving.
Yeah.
On the Helping Healing Humor podcast, we talk about anxiety and stress and its impact on our everyday lives. We know that finances, including planning for retirement, is one of the leading causes of stress. It can be confusing and overwhelming. There are differing opinions on the best approach. It can be hard to know who to trust. For our retirement planning, Whitney and I trust Greg Howell of Howell Wealth Management at Northwestern Mutual. Greg is professional, knowledgeable, and accessible. He looks at the whole picture and thinks outside the box to create ways to help you reach your financial goals. Retirement planning can be especially challenging for ministers who do not have the benefit of a 401k, but Greg's expertise and creativity can get you on the right path and give you confidence for the future. Text him to schedule your free 15-minute consultation today at 931-638-1576. Be sure to tell him Ben and Travis sent you. Remember, that's Greg Howell of Howell Wealth Management at Northwestern Mutual, 931-638-1576.
So our Slawburger Chase 5K, 10K question of the day is, do you guys have any questions for each other? Is there anything that, I know we do get to hang out and we get to drive places and we get to do things or whatever, but, maybe about a character or something that they played or, how do you get into that? Like what gets you fired up? So I'll kind of do that and throw something out while you guys think. But, what is it? Is there something that gets you in the zone? I mean, it could be simple as, I drink Mountain Dew. That's what gets me in the zone. Or, I'm not saying we're a method actors by any means whatsoever. But, what kind of gets you geared up? Is there anything, any kind of preparation before going on stage? Or is it just, hey, the lights are on? Ben and I typically do Ben and Travis. So we're already up there kind of in the mode. And so that kind of gets us going. So I didn't know if there was anything. I know we pray before we perform, and that's always really cool. And then we kind of, at the end, kind of debrief. And do those things. So is there anything?
This is so random. If once I make sure you guys feel good about it, because I often, you guys, and they ask us one time, I often say, hey, you don't want to rescue hostages with these guys. You don't want the other SWAT team to do skits at church. I'd go to the buildings with you guys right here, right now, anytime. Okay? And so so you guys will follow me. You guys are loyal, and y'all treat me like I'm the leader of this thing. But sometimes you're like, we hadn't practiced enough, and you guys are insecure. And I'm like, I think the show's great. We're good. And then I feel it from you guys. Derek's always, well, you don't want it to look too rehearsed. You got that right. He says that every year, And Michael's kind of a perfectionist. And so once I make sure that you guys are okay and that I haven't put you in a position where I've asked you to do something you're unprepared to do or made you be in a position that I've asked you to embarrass yourselves, once I make sure that I've taken care of y'all, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to make it happen. Yeah. There's a scene in the movie The Last Samurai. And the head samurai that lives in this village, Katsumoto, they're in the village. And these guys are samurai. But they gather around this elevated stage for like kabuki theater. And there's this goofy puppet there. And they're supposed to be flirting with her like she's a geisha girl. And out of the back comes Katsumoto, this warrior samurai, and he's on stage. And his men heckle him. They go, get the amateur off the stage. And he's the leader of the rebellion in Japan. But he's doing this silly theater stuff. And I feel like Katsumoto when I do SWAT with you guys. Because we're, in our own right, real men. And yet we take this time to be silly and to be fanciful and to use our imagination. And I often think about that scene, The Last Samurai, that, real world people, real world lives deal with real things. Coach, football, cancer survivor, paramedic. You were in the Army, airborne qualified, managed stores and projects, and now in IT, a therapist. You had a girlfriend that got killed in a wreck. Mm-hmm. I get my feet in the mud, my hands in the dirt, and we're comfortable playing skits. And I think the fact that we like it so well prepares us to do it. And maybe that's cheesy. You may have to cut it out of that. But I often think of that scene in The Last Samurai when I'm about to go do SWAT, because we're not a bunch of soft, pretend actors. We're not really actors, but we're authentic when we do
We
these
get
skits.
reminded of that a lot.
Yeah.
You guys aren't really actors.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I know.
But I think the authenticity and the fact that we're comfortable enough to be who we are and who we're not prepares us to do this. And maybe that's blowing our own horn, but that's what I think about you guys. Yeah. And I've worked with people who were actors that I wouldn't do the skits with. And that's no offense to my acting friends who are better actors than we are.
I'd be lying if I didn't hear every once in a while when the sliding door opens up and we all get out. We got to do that video, the A-Team. And,
with the SWAT team, not the A-Team.
I know, but I'm just saying. Maybe there's something in me that wants to be Murdoch so bad. I mean, I've got to be Batman,
you
the
already
Ninja.
Are.
There's just something that has to happen there. But it is cool to get off that van, and no matter where we are, we do have each other, and we give each other all kinds of unmerciful trash and shade all the way there. But that's how it works. And I love that Lisa's like right in the middle of it. She gives it just as well.
Yeah, and don't be fooled. We really complimented Derek about his humility, but he will give you grief if you need it.
Just a wee tad.
If you need to be humbled, Derek will gladly humble you too.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
it's my job.
I think it goes along with that too, is that there's just something to me about it's like almost a therapy for me. So when we start talking about and sometimes thinking about, oh man, what are the things that, time-wise I want to give up? This is not one of those things. Like, this is something that's good for me. This is something that's healthy for me. For one, to just kind of play around and do these skits is part of that. And hey, we get to use that imagination. We get to, think up these characters and talk, with all
Ben
these
and I have been
accents.
playing imaginary with like wiffle ball bats and
Forever,
sticks for
yeah.
40 some odd years. So
Yeah.
now we just get to do it in front of
We
a lot
get
of
to do it.
people.
And then on top of that, it's the 7 or 8 hour drive doesn't feel like a 7 or 8 hour
No,
drive.
ever. Not ever.
It's almost like you pull up and we're happy to be where we're going, but it's like, oh man, especially going home. You get home and you're like, well, I'm glad to be home, but I was really enjoying that conversation. Or, that was a fun weekend just to talk to each other, and you just leave encouraged when you're around this group. So there's just nothing like it. So
Derek, Rick, Lisa.
Well, I guess the thing I would say is that I'm not sure that, I'm proud of what we do, right? This service, this thing that we're involved in, I'm really proud of what we do. And I'm not sure that I would do this with anybody else, that it would work for me.
it'll be the same.
It's unique because it's you guys.
I agree with that.
And we've grown closer the years that we do this, and I really enjoy that bond that we have, and so it's this that I enjoy. I'm not sure I would enjoy, if it wasn't this, So.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
I am probably not surprised is probably not the right word. I'm humbled every year. It impacts me every year with the comments that we get, and that this thing that we do and have so much fun doing has the impact and relays the message that it does. It hits me every year. How something as simple and as fun as this is has, I think, a really big impact.
Well, it's humbling too when you hear things, and Travis and I hear this, and then we've heard it a lot about SWAT this weekend. Like, people, you guys are famous. I'm like, there's 14,000 people at CYC famous. Those people know us. But then at the same time, it's kind of humbling because you go, there's a lot of people who are looking at us, and we've got to be careful the example that we're doing, not just when we're on the stage, but our lives carry that kind of weight. That if they go, oh, they were in CYC or in SWAT at CYC, and this, that this carries a pretty big weight. So while there's a lot of fun with it, there's some people watching us, not just on stage, but what we do after that, and broken down on the side of the road. We blew a tire out on the way back from CYC, and, people driving down the road and people seeing us in that context, how are they going to act in those contexts, versus just up on the stage? Is it going to be the same?
So one time on the way home, we saw a couple of buses pulled over. We thought they were just chilling, having a picnic or whatever. So we pull in, and they broken down and had trouble. And it was me and Jackie stopped to offer these folks assistance. And that was kind of like, oh, these are real people. That context of, are we real, off the stage, on the stage kind of thing. And then, I'm like Derek, I'm humbled by the impact that this simple thing tends to carry with it. The experience linked with an emotion creates a memory. And that, when I learned that phrase, in my mind, that explained that's what SWAT does.
Yeah.
It's experience-based learning, values-based entertainment.
So with that, I just want to thank everybody. Thanks, CYC. You guys encourage us, and we always look forward to coming to you and everywhere else where we get to go. West Virginia, it's awesome.
North End Youth Rally here in Parkersburg, West Virginia. They host this every year.
And then the love we get every time the show's over. Just people come up and want to talk, and there's people that want to talk that don't get the opportunity. And so that's why I like doing interviews like this, where we answer some questions that people might not ever get. So thank y'all.
Well, thank you guys for letting us be on your podcast.
Thank you guys for staying up late and being on our podcast. Thank you. Thanks for being with us for this episode of the Helping Healing Humor podcast.
Be sure to download our free ebook, 28 Days of Focused Living, at benandtravis.com and receive all of our helping, healing, and humor extra content directly in your inbox. We look forward to having you join us at the same Ben and Travis time, same Ben and Travis channel.